Good afternoon, I'm Rosie Sage. Forgive me, I'm using crib notes. I'm not a presenter, I'm not a speaker in any way, I'm a farmer. And since lockdown, the only girls I've had to talk to are the girls outside. They're not full of conversation. It's all one-sided. It's unusual because I'm not usually short for words, but I am when I'm dealing with this. Anyway, I'm Rosie Sage. I farm with my partner, Dave Paul, and we farm in Babkerry, South Somerset. We are the third generation to farm on this farm, and we currently have 180 Guernsey cows, Channel Island breed, plus followers, split block calving. So we have an autumn block and a spring block, and it kind of gives us a level milk profile, which is what the milk buyers would like. They don't want people having fluctuating milk patterns. We produce from our cows raw milk, raw cream and yogurt, and we use about 20% of our production. The remainder of our milk is sold to Berkeley Farm Dairy near Swindon. They're another organic Guernsey herd who bottle milk for Abel and Cole and also make kefir. So we're both into the fermented product side of things. We have run a low input, low output system for the last 15 years. And for the last 10 years, we've been GM free. And since September 2020, we've been fully organic, and we feel that we've achieved a milestone. Now we've actually added something back to the farm. We've almost, probably in a way, got back to where grandfather was at the beginning. But what makes us a little different is that we milk our cows robotically and graze them 24/7 during the grazing season, and that's an extended grazing season. We always like the idea of robots, but believe they only work with cows indoors. And when people said, oh yeah, we've got robots and we graze, basically they had a loafing paddock for the cows. So the cows had access to outside, but had a full diet inside. And that wasn't our way of farming. It wasn't how we believe cows should be. We like our cows out grazing. They're working girls, they can graze. And we also like them to be fixing their own carbon. And we don't want to spread their poo in the summer, they have to spread their own. That's our fertilizer. So friends of ours had been on a study tour to Ireland and had seen exactly that, our dream. Cows grazing 24/7, being milked robotically, and happy farmers. That proves it works. So we went to Ireland, well, quite quickly after that, we went to Ireland to see it for ourselves. And what we couldn't believe was these cows coming and going, walking backwards and forwards, their own volition to the grazing paddocks. And we said to one farmer, how far do they go? Because we couldn't see any cows in the near or far. And he said, hang on a minute. So we watched this cow go down, and it was like the Australian outback. The land went like that, undulating all the way. And we just stood and watched this lone cow walk. We saw her, she disappeared, she walked on, disappeared. How far she gone? About a mile. She went there on her own. And that for us was a little bit of a light bulb moment. We realised with an effort, it wasn't going to happen overnight, but with an effort, we could get to that position. We realised that with all our farm buildings at one end of our land, we're split by a single track road in the middle. We could still support a grazing system on robots, and it would work with the mindset. If you had the right mindset, you could make it work. And so that's what we've done. We've got cows grazing platform on one side of the lane. We have the silage and forage area on the other side of the lane. And we've got the buildings all at one end, and our cows come and go. There was a little bit to do to get going on that. We already had a really good system of sleeper tracks, concrete sleeper tracks, so we could get the cows out. We've got a heavy clay land, so to get out and back, we've always used a system of tracks. We had to add a few more, a couple spur roads, to be able to access different fields in different orders. And the first 2 robots were installed in our collecting yard whilst we continued to milk through the existing parlour. And we set up a grazeway gate on the outside of the shed, and the grazeway gate is a shedding gate. So with the help of Jordan Malloy from the lady in Ireland, who is basically the guru, we worship the ground she walks, understands the cow's psyche and how the robots work, we set our grazing up. We basically took our grazing platform and divided it into 3 districts, A, B and C. For my simple mind, the easiest way to understand this is breakfast, dinner and tea. So we divided the grazing block up. We don't change the field status. We haven't changed hedges. We haven't changed anything. We've just ensured that tracks can get to each field in each block. And so we can get, the cows can travel happily backwards and forwards, not through quagmire. They've got to be able to travel easily. And the grazeway gate that we set up on the outside has 4 ways. So it can either send them down the A track, the B track, the C track, or should we need the cow to stay home, it will spin her back round on herself and put her back into the yard. Now they go down each track. This is where you have to get your head round this. They go down each track, or the grazeway is open to each track for 8 hours. And then it swings them to the next track. So A starts at 2 o'clock in the morning, B 10 a.m. and C 6 p.m. And the gate changes automatically. It's all, there's no manual effort to this. This is happening as you go. And then in each paddock, when they get to the paddock we've allocated at the end of the track, we would allocate the forage 40% in A, 40% in B and 20% in C, because C is the 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. paddock where the cows will sleep a bit longer. But it's essential that you get them to keep moving, so you don't give them all their forage, an equal amount of forage in the 6 p.m. one, because it may keep them later. And 2 a.m. for some unknown reason to me is in a cow's psyche that if she starts moving at 2, she will move all day. So 2 a.m. is crucial if we want the cows to move. So we have to keep that in our head, that we're always wanting our cows to move on their own. So we would send the cows down the track. We moved the fence. So we've got 3 fences to move each day. We would move the fence approximately 15 hours after the cows have gone in there, 18 hours. It just depends what's happening on the farm that day and what we're doing. But we go down and we would sweep out any cows that are left in the paddock and move the fence ready for the next gate change. We always start grazing at the beginning of the season on A as well, going back to the A being crucial, because that means you just, on the first grazing of the season, they're going to move at the right time. And believe you me, they know when that gate's open, as cows always do in the spring. They sort of hang around the gate, think, oh, I want to be out, I want to be out, I want to be out. And they will test the grazeway gate. And those cows are quite canny that they'll test it, but they don't go into it and then have to walk around and be swung back into the yard. They will put one head and one foot, well, one head, they've only got one head forward and a foot forward to see which gate is going to swing them which way. And they know which track it is, and they know whether they want to go down to the A, B or C, depending on the time. They know what time the gate changes. So at 6 o'clock is a classic of an evening. A lot of them, 20% or so, will come back in the yard ready for the gate change at 6 o'clock, and they will get themselves milked and be lined up ready. And then the lead cow will just keep popping her head into the grazeway, waiting for the gate to open in the direction she wants to go, and then they all trot through. The cows have got an inbuilt clock. They know the times of the gate changes. You see them marching back up the track, determined that they're going to get in the robot and be the first down to the next lot of grazing. They are chasing themselves round. We aren't moving them. They do it all of their own volition. So the key is to keep the grazing fresh when they get there. They want to be the first one down to the grazing. And when they get there, what they're grazing is a clover-rich lay. Our grazing system is clover-rich lays on the grazing, and then on the conservation side, we're doing lucerne and red clover. And as we gradually go around the farm, we are changing the normal conventional lays over to different forages. Now, when they're grazing, the cows don't have to go to breakfast, dinner and tea. As fresh milkers, when they first calve, they might, or a good majority of them will get to A, B and C, and they will come back and they will be milked 3 times. As they go through their lactation and there's less milk and less pressure on the udder, they will start to miss out a meal. They might go, no breakfast, I'm not moving on too fast today. Or they'll skip something. So they don't have to go to all three areas to be high productive milkers. It's just the fact that that's where they find their own rhythm, and they still might be high yielding, but only do 2 paddocks. It's just each cow is allowed to do what she wants to do. So, and the key to a healthy cow is stress-free, with space to behave naturally and be able to choose the freedoms, which are eating, drinking, resting, and milking. And that's what our girls have. The robots allow us to monitor them without interfering. So we know there's huge amounts of data, it's data galore, but we know, and we can see at a glance, the somatic cell count and conductivity of each cow's quarter at milking. So we can just go through all the reports, and believe you me, there are loads of reports. So you can pick up cows and you can pick up trends, and you can see when a cow is declining. If there's something wrong, you can pick all that up. So you don't need to start holding them in the yard. We can see the rumination, the yield. If they're bulling, well, if they're bulling, then we do want to keep them in the yard. So we can set the graze way that if she's bulling, it will hold her back to be AI'd. We just go back to the yard every now and again. We know who to expect to be in there. We can AI them and then send them straight on down the track. And it also gives body temperature, which are all good. So it's a good volume of information that we don't have to hold cows back. We can see them in the field, and we can let them run their own lives. The thing I get from robotic milking, which isn't actually probably a positive apart from for me, I get such a buzz seeing those cows in their friendship groups. You will see cows who calve in together and stay together. We had 2 heifers who came into the herd. So they were consecutive numbers. So they were obviously born the same day, probably, or just a couple of hours apart. And they did everything together. They came in, they learned to use the robot together, they calved together, they learned to use the robot together. They then would sleep in adjacent cubicles in the winter and go to the feed together, and then they would go to the robot together, but they wouldn't use a robot each. They would use one, and one would wait, and then the next one would go to milk, and then they'd wait. In the spring, you see them trotting down the track together. They did everything together that year. Whether they come in and do it again the same way, who's to say? But it does look lovely. And sometimes you look out on the track and you look at the cow and you think, she stood there cutting, just taking the world in. And everyone's going backwards and forwards, and you're watching her and you're thinking, what's she doing? And you can get hooked up. She should be in the field. You haven't. You've got to take a step back. She's choosing to do what she wants to do. In a conventional system, she would have spent 2 hours possibly in the collecting yard in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. And all she's doing is spending 20 minutes watching the world go by. You just have to let them do what they want to do. Grazing cows on robots, not for everybody. And you have to kick back and freewheel a little. I think if you look at Dave and I, my profile photo on this thing, you'll see that we are a little bit different. You know, date night is gearing out and moving a fence as the sun goes down. But the cows are in a little more in charge than we are. Maybe sometimes, maybe not, but it's fine by us. For the 3.5 months that the cows are housed, we feel that's the offset of the freedom they have during the grazing season, when they actually do everything as they want to. And while they are housed, they're only fed homegrown forage and a soya-free organic cake. So we like to think that we're protecting the planet in our own little way and doing the best we can. Thank you.